Now, from Toledo's news leader, this is WTOL News 11, your day.
Well, most of us want to have more money, right? That's kind of a no-brainer. But did you know that when it comes to investments, the best tool that you might have at your disposal may just be yourself? We're talking to financial expert Jason Voss to find out why. Good morning, Jason. Well, if we're not financial planners and we don't know a lot about what's going on, how can we trust ourselves? Because if we're not, really schooled in the field of finance, like, what do we know about this? So tell us your theory about how you can be your own best tool.
Well, it's a great question. You know, all of us have grown up in the United States, and so we have a daily interaction from the time we're very young with businesses. And so we actually, all of us have a very good and refined business acumen. But the problem is we get overwhelmed by the jargon, and so many of us are intimidated by investing for that reason. And one of the things I argue about in The Intuitive Investor is the fact that most of us have a really strong intuitive sense of what we like and what we don't like, but oftentimes we don't follow it. And there are lots of reasons for that. One of them is the jargon, as I mentioned. Another is that we just think, oh, I'm the average Joe, and so I don't necessarily have the skill set to do this. And I think that's absolutely incorrect. Some of the best investors I know are good friends who never did what I did professionally.
Now, when you're talking about investments, are you talking about everything, or because I think if you get involved in like stocks and stuff, it can get to be kind of heady with doing research and stuff, but does this encompass everything?
Well, that's a great question. In fact, in my book, I redefine investing to mean to make a choice. Every time we make a decision in life, we're investing our time, our energy, our resources, sometimes our reputation, like I am today. And so what I try and do is shift people's attention away from like the stock market, which is what most people think about. In fact, some of my good friends who ask me for investment advice, I say, you know what, you have a very successful career, and they're entrepreneurs. Invest in your career. That, too, is an investment.
Now, in your book, you talk about the 7 essential investor attitudes. Can you give us kind of a preview of what some of those are?
I most certainly can. Attitude 1 is to focus on risks before opportunities. And what I mean by that is that risks have a tendency to repeat themselves. In fact, the insurance industry counts on that. And yet most investors spend their time obsessing about opportunity, but that's kind of unknown and very difficult. So 80% of my time as a professional investor was spent on risks. The next one I want to highlight is attitude 3, which is that a good decision is most often greater than or equal to the perfect decision. Perfect decision is really difficult to know ahead of time. You can only look backwards and kind of know that. So unfortunately, people will obsess about, wow, did I do enough research? Did I do enough of that? And they have good choices before them. So just make a decision. And then the last one I want to highlight is what I'll call beware of false prophets. And beware of false prophets has a subset, which is beware the adjective. And oftentimes when we hear business news, we hear a lot of like really hyped up stories, and they're accompanied by adjectives. So there's quite a few exercises in the book where I ask people, strip away the adjectives as you're watching the news. What's really happening? What's the real substance behind it?
Now, if you're going to get started on this, say you've done nothing so far, do you advise maybe talking to some friends that are kind of business savvy, or maybe talking to a financial planner just to get you going? Or do you think with some of the skills that you're mentioning in your book, someone who's never done anything before could at least stick a toe into the wading pool, if you will?
Well, there's an easy answer, Mike, and that is do what makes you comfortable. Because one of the things I talk quite a bit about in my book is that if you're not comfortable when you're making your decisions, you're going to make a bad decision. And so everybody's got a unique set of like things that will make them comfortable. If that's talking to a friend who knows it, if it's reading my book, hopefully, that's great. Yeah, so whatever makes you comfortable.
Well, Jason, thank you so much. That's Jason Voss with your new book, The Intuitive Investor, and we'll put a link on our website to get to your stuff. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mike.
I'm already on the right track. I'm wearing a pocket square, and he has one, so hopefully that'll get me going.